content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
just
I love stories like this because it's people just so scared to death.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah,
There are countless horror stories of
people that you shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the
JFK assassination limo.
too real.
Within the great American Rust Belt. This is Type 3 TV. I'm your host, John Pazinski, alongside Dan Rady.
What is up?
And Steve, a.k.a. Buddha Gibson.
Taking it to the root.
All right. Well, he had to start it off like that. Anyway, good evening, guys. Try to keep the banner down to a minimum before we go on, and yet you guys still continue to talk the entire time. But anyway, how was your week?
It sucked.
Okay. And
I bought a new chair. If that.
Oh, congratulations. You're an adult.
Right. Oh, God. All right. Well, this week's starting off to a riveting first episode. Back. Or no, it's not our first episode. It's
like our third or fourth.
Yeah, but it's getting cleaner. It's getting tighter. And I think we're off to a good start. So
yeah, we set the bar really low.
We did. All right. Well, let's start off with a little bit of news here. All right. So, this is not what I wanted to see. All right.
I got one I want to talk about then. It's because
Right.
it's kind of crazy.
Yep.
And it's actually it's an older article, but it's kind of like an update on it. So a paleontologist found what they think is to be the largest dinosaur ever out in Argentina. This actually happened back in 2012 when they started to find they got majority of it excavated, and it's something that's called a titanosaur, and it is about 125 feet long. I thought that's pretty wild.
Dude, you cut out for
Argentina.
You cut out for about a good, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds. Yeah.
Ah, well, okay. Recap. Paleontologists in Argentina find gigantic dinosaur called Titanosaur, supposedly the largest one ever found. It's about 125 feet long. And what's kind of crazy, like Argentina, South America, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to be like that's like a hotbed for just all these crazy archaeological finds.
They find a lot of that, but how long was that again?
125 feet long.
Wow.
I'm going to have to kill the Zoom share because I think that's what's bogging us down.
All right.
So,
well, whatever's happening,
Yep.
yeah, make it not happen.
Yeah, because you keep cutting out. Anyway, all right,
Okay.
I'm going to end the meeting for that. Okay. So, anyway, Titanosaur?
Titanosaur.
Gigantic. Something like that.
We had Giganosaur.
Well, there's another one called a Patagon Titan, and that was, I guess, the one prior to, which was the largest. It was 122 foot, they estimated it to be 70 tons.
Wow. It's crazy.
Did the
Titan
Titan
stuff like that walk the earth, you know?
Yeah, and
I know a few people that would fit that bill.
But even so, it's funny that you mentioned a lot of this stuff is being found in South America now versus, a lot of the Great Plains states, they had back in the 90s, you would hear a lot of digs would happen around there, and that's where they were finding a lot of raptors and things like that. At least that's what Jurassic Park set it up to be. So I don't know.
Well, I think also, and not to be condescending in any way, but if you're in areas that aren't really developed, and then as they start to develop, you're obviously now you have a reason to dig, and then you start coming across shit like this.
That's true. And the other thing is like, are there fossils? I mean, I know there's fossils around here, especially because of the Great Lakes, but like, are there things that we haven't found yet that we'll probably never find just due to infrastructure?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, dude, I mean, Chicago basically has a city under Chicago.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, how many people are going to know that in 50 years?
It's funny you should mention that dinosaur thing. Somebody actually found a pathway of tile from ancient Rome, like during the excavating of something. I don't know if it was for a house or whatnot, but it's like in pristine condition. Let me see if I can dig that up here.
Was it clay tile?
Let me see.
Why is that funny? That's a serious question.
I don't know. I'm gonna find out.
Because you said it, it sounded like it was a joke.
No, I mean that stuff lasts like forever. I was just genuinely asking.
Oh, okay. It says rock found in English garden turns out to be a Roman relic worth $20,000. And then it's a mosaic floor beneath an Italian. Oh, sorry, my computer's really taxed doing this. Imagine if your computer had to do this, Dan.
It'd melt down. It'd melt down.
Yeah, it says perfectly preserved ancient Roman mosaic floor unearthed beneath Italian vineyard. But archaeologists in northern Italy uncovered... God damn it, pop up. In northern Italy, uncovered a rare gem, an amazingly well-preserved mosaic floor that dates back to ancient Rome. The discovery was made nearly after a century of searching the site of a long-lost villa. But yeah, like, it's crazy, like... you guys can see this picture here, but yeah, it's incredible. Like, it looks like something that you would see like now in like a pool or something. Like, it's just perfectly mosaic tile, and it's just buried in the soil about 12 inches down, but it's supposedly from ancient Rome.
So, random question: if you find something like that, and it ends up being like, I don't know. I don't think heirloom is the right word, but you know what I'm saying? Like something from way back then, some crazy archaeological find that's worth a ton of money. Do you sell it or do you donate it to a museum?
I'm selling that thing, man.
Yeah,
we know you are.
He will go to Gabriel Brothers and buy a bunch of closeout jewelry and clothes and shoes.
Man, you guys know me good. That's right.
and a bunch of KFC.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I'm going to own a KFC restaurant.
The next franchisee.
He will be the Burger King. All right. Anyway.
No, it's a tough call because, again, I don't know. I kind of would probably want to keep it for myself. I don't even know. I mean, the price would have to be right. What is something like that even valued at?
Whatever somebody's willing to pay,
I guess. But
yeah,
I mean, is it priceless? Is it considered like a priceless antiquity, or
probably that goes to the highest bidder. I'm sure all the museums, museums just bid on it, and probably who goes to the highest bidder. I'm assuming, right?
I don't think a lot of the museums are really paying for stuff. I think it's more donation. Yeah, I think you'd have to go to some type of collector's auction.
Yeah, how do you these museums where? Oh, go ahead.
No, how do you convince some guy to be like, hey, I swear this is some old Roman tile and you're going to want this? You know what I mean? Like, it's just I don't know. I'm sure it's more so like art and statues and like weapons and stuff like that people really want to collect.
Yeah, but that's a crazy thing. Like I said, it looks like it was part of like a swimming pool. You know what I mean? It's just that perfect.
Well, they had water back then, so.
Well, no, but I guess it's just like, who's to say someone just didn't friggin' dig a hole and put this in the ground and it's not really what it is too,
Well, they have what do they call it, spectro analyzing or whatever it's called. They can tell stuff that the age of it and know that it's not.
Don't make shit up. Stop it.
All right,
kiss my ass. No, seriously, they got something like that, don't they?
I think you're more talking about carbon dating.
Yes, that's where I was going to. Yeah.
Yeah, spectrum
Okay.
analyzer is like checking
From the Ghostbusters.
yeah.
No, there's some. I know I wasn't called the right thing. But,
No, it's carbon dating is what you're talking about.
okay, yeah, but isn't that? I mean, they have ways of knowing that the stuff isn't fake or placed there or anything. I'm sure, right? The experts.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get, like I said, it's like about 12 inches beneath the soil. It looks like something out of a swimming pool. Again, I mean, that's the only thing I can really compare it to, or even just like a nice backsplash in a kitchen. So, all right, moving on. The Atlantic Ocean is widening. Here's why. This is from livescience.com. It says the Atlantic Ocean is getting wider, shoving the Americas to one side and Europe. The Atlantic Ocean is getting wider, shoving the Americas to one side and Europe and Africa to the other, but it's not known exactly how. A new study suggests that the deep beneath the Earth's crust, in a layer called the mantle, sizzling hot rocks are rising up, pushing on the tectonic plates, causing the ocean to widen by an inch a year. So, we might be going back to a Pangea. It might take, a couple 100,000 years, but who knows? We might all end up back in the same place that we once started.
Hopefully California just falls off.
Yeah. Sinks. It says the full moon changes how people sleep without ever realizing, study says. In modern times, this is from sciencealert.com. In modern times, a great deal of research is focused on the way that artificial light sources mess up sleep and health due to unnatural effects of illumination after the sun goes down. But it says moonlight is so bright to the human eye that it is entirely reasonable to imagine that in the absence of other sources of light, this source of nocturnal light could have had a role in modulating human nocturnal activity and sleep. I don't know. I mean, do you think... I mean, there are some nights, even when it snows, where it seems brighter. I mean, I know it's reflecting off of... Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just don't like what you...
Okay, because I'm not even getting a... I'm not even seeing a level on Clean Feed for me.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think
I hear you.
one thing you got to take into consideration, especially with the snow, is the glare and the reflection off the snow.
Well,
but your eyes are, they're dilated to take in so much more light.
That and that's where I was going with it. You know what I mean? The reflection, but yeah, I don't. There have been some nights, especially in the winter, with that reflection that I've looked out my window at night and I'm like, wow, it's really bright out. So
Yeah, every time
doesn't affect my sleep. I could sleep through the end of the world. So
every time I see that, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I see that it's super light out, I just go, shit, I got to do the snow in the morning.
yeah. Or you're like, there's been times where I'm like, oh, I'm late for work, and I got to be there 3 hours later, but yeah, so interesting little article.
That's actually like my favorite time is the middle of the night when there's snow, like when it's snowy in the middle of the night and you can go out and there's nobody out, but it's light enough that you don't actually need lights. I think that's like the coolest time to be outside.
Yeah. And people avoid the snow and bad weather so much that it's like, it might be actually quite peaceful to just go out. I was thinking about this the other day. Like I'm supposed to vacation in May and I was supposed to go to Alaska. And I'm thinking about this and I'm going, all I want to do is get away from like technology, computers, television. I was looking at my boss has a picture of like a beach in his office and I'm like, I would want to go there or Alaska or anywhere away from like media and technology. And so going for a drive at night on a snowy night actually sounds kind of relaxing because there's nobody out. You don't have to be around anybody and there's nothing there to kind of keep your mind preoccupied other than just what's around you.
Yeah. How peaceful is it when you go out and, Buddha was talking about shoveling. I mean, I don't have a house anymore, but when I, had rented house, you go out at 9 or 10 o'clock at night after a giant blizzard and you're the only one outside shoveling. Granted, we're in the city, we live in the city, but it's peaceful. You're right. It's actually peaceful just shoveling. You just got the snow all around you and no one's really around. And it is like a peaceful feeling.
I hate shoveling, so I don't think it's peaceful, but I do agree it's quiet. The atmosphere is peaceful. All right, moving on. So in other news this week, and we're going to hit Buddha's favorite topic, the entertainment portion. Larry King is no more. It says here he was 87 years old, I believe.
I thought he was 94.
No, he was 80 something, late 80s.
Oh.
I thought it was 80. I think you're right, John.
Yeah, I think he's 87, but he did get the coof a couple weeks ago, I believe, and so I don't think he died from it, but it probably will be reported as it.
No,
They're stating
everyone
that he
dies
didn't.
from it. Everyone dies from it. You guys are wrong.
His wife, his widow said she did not die from that. That guy had so many health problems in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, he's had 3 heart attacks, stroke, infections.
Yeah.
He's had so much stuff.
But he still worked up until 6
I know.
months ago. It's amazing.
know.
I'm a firm believer in when you stop working and you have nothing else to do is when your body just shuts down.
Yep.
You know, I
You're
mean,
right.
there's people that I've worked with that are working, full time, if not more, through into their 70s. And they're I can't say that they're healthy as me or you, but, they definitely don't seem like they're in their 70s. But, when people stop going to work or stop doing hobbies or whatever it is they do, they, you become kind of more sedentary and you start to slow down. And I think your body just understands that. And then it just kind of goes like that deep exhale. And then it's like, all right, we're good now.
Yep. I worked with a lot of guys, like you just said, they were retired. They were drivers at a car parts place I worked at. And these guys were in there. They didn't have to work. They were retired. They had good pensions and they retired. And literally you'd hear a month later, they passed away after they got, after they quit doing the part-time job.
Wow. All right, moving on.
Well, speaking of that, there's actually 3 gorillas at a California zoo that tested for COVID. Well, they show mild symptoms of COVID, which actually means symptoms of anything. But I digress. We can move on.
All right. In other entertainment news here, this one's from let's see. I'm going to skip this one. It's not. All right. Let's see. And then, the tile thing. So, okay, I'm done with news for today. So, Dan, why don't you take us up?
Absolutely. All right. Well, so the last episode we talked about the potential assassins of JFK. Everyone that's supposedly in Dealey Plaza. All these visions of things people say they see of suspected assassins. So, real quick, I'm just going to go over a real quick recap of the last ones we talked about last time. You can go out on that episode and go into more detail, and then I'm going to finish up the list of the final ones here that I think are most possibly an assassin. I started with the least possible and the most ridiculous and moved my way up. But last week we talked about William Greer, the driver. Saying that William Greer, the driver, shot JFK, turned around and shot him. Most ridiculous of them all. He didn't shoot anybody. The guy, the supposed gun was nothing more. I don't know if you can bring the photo up or not, but
Yep, I have it up.
Okay. I'm not seeing it on my end here, but okay.
Like I said, you're going to get
You seen it, Buddha?
if you're watching the stream, you're going to get a 10-second delay.
Oh, that's right. Gotcha. So anyway, if you look, you see it's basically Roy Kellerman's head that moved upward, and in the grainy view of this version of this film, it sort of could have looked like a gun was shooting Kennedy. That top of the Secret Service agent's head sitting in the passenger seat, his forehead and his hairline is what people think looks like a pistol aiming to JFK. Well, if obviously he's going to have to shoot right through the governor and his wife. And I think most people around the car and in the car would have heard a gun going off, 15 inches away from him. So that is the most ridiculous one. But one thing I do want to mention real quick, though, that I did not mention last time about William Greer, the driver. One odd thing about his behavior that day, and a lot of people do wonder about this, instead of getting that car out of there, if you ever watched the film, of any of this film of this assassination, instead of, when those first couple shots hit, it was obvious there was commotion going on. Connally was hit, Kennedy was hit. He could have just punched that accelerator. If he would have hit that accelerator when he should have, the fatal headshot never happens. But instead, at this moment right here, this is literally a second before the headshot, the car almost comes to a stop. It literally almost comes to a stop, making JFK a complete sitting duck. Only after his head gets blown off is when William Greer, steps on the accelerator and gets the car out of there. So that's very bizarre behavior. I don't think that's part of a conspiracy. I think that was just a very undertrained agent.
Yeah,
that,
well, but even so, like, you got to think about natural, like, just reactions. Does somebody, what's your reaction if you hit something or something goes awry while you're driving? The first thing you want to do is stop. That's what they train you to do while you're driving. Stop if you get in an accident, if you hear a noise. And so maybe it's just instinctual that he stopped.
Being a Secret Service agent, their main thing is to protect the president. I mean, if you're driving in a city, and you hear gunshots and you hear people screaming and you're like, oh, you're going to stop. You're not going to get out of your car and look around and see where the shots are coming from. You're going to accelerate and get the hell out of there. You're going to go through some stoplights to get away from the danger. And Secret Service agents, even back then, they were trained to protect the president, and a defensive driving tactic would be to get them out of there and not slow the car down. But, again, I don't know that's part of it. But you're right, John. I mean, when people go into shock, who knows what he was thinking. He certainly didn't think the president was going to get shot and, his head blown away. But regardless, that's the most ridiculous one as far as him shooting himself. So the next one we went over was, which there's no photo of, but that's just the Tony Gambino crime boss. The mafia crime bosses claim that there was somebody in the storm drain sewer that shot the president in the head. To my knowledge, I don't know that there was any witnesses. Someone can, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm not an expert on this. I don't pretend to be an assassination expert, but I don't know that there was any claims other than his claim that there was any viable evidence proving anyone seeing anything like this, a shot coming from a sewer. So that was that one. And then finally, the last one we went over was Badge Man. And Badge Man is, of course, the image seen behind the white retaining wall of what people think is or what they think they see is a Dallas police officer, which it could look like a Dallas police officer, shooting at the president behind the wall there. This has been looked at plenty of times, and with amazing rendering and image, rendering and smoothing the photo out. Yeah, it could kind of look like and that's a location. In this photo, there's a close-up of it, but that is a location of where Badge Man is supposed to be, which there's a close-up of it. But when they looked at this and cleaned it up, Badge Man is just way too small to be a human being. It's unbelievable. When you look at it close up, it looks like it could be human, but when they zoom in on it and you see him compared to the retaining wall and the other people in the photo, it's just too damn small to be a human being. But regardless, there's people that believe in Badge Man.
All right, and so this week,
what's that?
So this week, are you moving on? I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I was going to say if you're going to show the photo, the close up of Badge Man, but. Moving on. So going over this week, we'll finish up.
Sorry,
the next
I didn't
one
have it loaded
is.
in.
That's all right. That's fine. Next one is Umbrella Man. Now, Umbrella Man is seen right as the car is coming up, right as the shots are starting. Actually, is where Umbrella Man is seen. He's holding the umbrella upward. The first thing is it rained earlier this day. But at this point in time of the day, it is beautiful, sunny, not a cloud in the sky. And this man has his umbrella up. Now, there's two theories to why the conspiracy theorists say there's two reasons why he has the umbrella up. First reason is, or why he's got an umbrella. First one is ridiculous. He has a poison dart inside the umbrella, and he's somehow shoots or aims it at the president, and either to sting him. Paralyze him so he can be an easier target for a shot. The CIA, the CIA did make, there were people within the CIA that said there were, and this is like James Bond shit here, right? But that there were things like this around at that time. I think that's ridiculous. But what I do think, though, is the next theory, which says he was a signal man to the assassins in Dealey Plaza. So you see that, and this photo right here, if you look to the very low left bottom corner, right by the tire. That's that's his umbrella up, right there. He just lifted the umbrella up at that point when Kennedy. And Kennedy just got shot, and he's obviously, you can tell he got shot. He's clutching his throat. So a lot of people think that Umbrella Man is a signal man to the other assassins. Now, later on, many years later, late 70s, the United States House Select Committee of Assassinations. It was an appeal to the public by them this was the late 70s, by the way, to find out who this was. A man by the name of Louis Stephen Witt came forward in 1978. He claimed he was the Umbrella Man. Now, of course, the reason is, why did you have an umbrella? Now, I'm just going to take this real quick. This is what I read here. I'm not writing this. This is what I read. He claimed to still have the umbrella. Okay, he didn't realize he was even the subject of controversy. But he said, let's see here. He brought the umbrella simply to heckle Kennedy, whose father, Joseph, had been a supporter of the Nazi-appeasing British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. By waving a black umbrella, Chamberlain's trademark fashion accessory, Witt said he was protesting the Kennedy family appeasing Adolf Hitler before World War II. Now, I didn't write that. I'm just reading that from Wikipedia. And that's what he had said. But that seems like a very lame excuse. Kennedy is not going to, I'm sure Kennedy is going to know something about what his father did 30 or 40 years before. I really think that seems lame. It could be true, but that was his excuse for it. So, whatever you think of it, to me it's weird, and I think there's something to the Umbrella Man. And there's obviously another photo of him right before the car comes up, and people think he's signaling other assassins, but that's him. So then finally, not finally, but one other person I want to go over here real quick. This is not an assassin, but the Babushka lady. Now, the Babushka lady, which is strange, is a woman that is seen filming basically the assassination. And she's seen in some of the photos. One thing is, the weird thing about her is, after the assassination or during the assassination, everybody's dropping to the ground, thinking that there's other bullets coming. She's just standing there. Now, in itself, that doesn't seem strange. I mean, people go into shock different ways. She might not even know what the hell happened for a second. But she's standing there. Everyone else is running around. She does cross the street now, and there she is crossing the street. Now, a lot of people wanted to know about this woman because she is seen in other films filming the assassination. She probably had some good film on, or good pictures of this. Could have had something there. So in 1970, but she had never been identified at all. A lot of people in Dealey Plaza were identified. She wasn't. But in 1970, a woman named Beverly Oliver, she had told a conspiracy researcher, Gary Shaw, that she was the Babushka woman. She stated that she filmed the assassination with a Super 8 film, and I'm going to screw this name up, a Yashica film camera. I think I might have been saying that wrong. But she filmed it. Right. Is that it? Okay. And she turned the undeveloped film over to two men who identified themselves as FBI agents. She did not get a receipt from them. They just told her, "We'll give you the film back within 10 days." Okay, that sounds strange. Now, here's the problem with Beverly Oliver. The camera she said she was using was not made and did not come out until 1969, when the assassination happened in 1963.
Yeah, 6 years later.
Yeah, 6 years later. Now, when she's confronted with that fact, right, she states that she received it basically as an experimental camera from a friend and was not even sure of the manufacturer's name on it. So obviously, she fell apart with a lie there, most likely, and most people do not believe that Beverly Oliver was the actual Babushka lady. But to this day, that woman has never been identified. She took some kind of film of it, and that has never been seen either. So that's just a little strange little, nugget of this whole thing here. But again, that's the Babushka lady. She's obviously well known. Finally, then we're going to go to the final person that I think is, or I guess image that shows a potential assassin. And that is the Black Dog Man. Now, you say, what the hell are you calling him a Black Dog Man? What is that? The reason he's got the name Black Dog Man is, in a couple of the photos, it looks like almost like a black dog, image of a black dog propped up on the retaining wall. Like a Doberman is what it kind of looks like to me. But obviously it's not that. It is a person. This is definitely a person. This isn't like Badge Man, which is just a blurry whatever. This is a true person in the photos. Now, and there you go. You see the photo there. It looks like, it looks kind of like a black side of a black dog a little bit. But
yeah, like a silhouette or a shadow of some sort.
Exactly. And this has been proven absolutely to be human. That is definitely somebody back there. That's for sure. Now, the strange thing about this is, first off, number one, here's the thing that Black Dog Man, if you believe in Badge Man, Black Dog Man and Badge Man are either A, one and the same, or B, there's two assassins back there. I highly doubt there's two assassins back in that little wall there. So, people would have definitely saw that. So, Black Dog Man, now, this person has never been identified, okay? Never. And the strange thing about this, too, is in some of the other film, like there's film opposite of Zapruder, the Oliver Nix film, that shows the car going by. You don't see any image back there at all. Where the Black Dog Man should be, you don't see a person back there. But somebody definitely is obviously back there in this photo. Some people says it almost looks like someone kind of aiming a gun, kind of crouched up against the wall, aiming something, that toward the JFK.
Well, in the picture that I just transitioned over to, and you'll see here in a second, I mean, it does look like someone's leaning, or whatever it is leaning forward. This is more of like the side profile versus the head on, and it does look like there's a lean, like weight was being shifted forward.
Right.
So. Right.
And
I think you can see
ahead.
anything you want because these pictures look like they were taken with a potato.
Well, absolutely, but here's the bottom line. So many of the people that you see in these photos most of these people were identified and came forward, or the FBI and the Secret Service found these people and came forward to with these people. Now, the one interesting fact is, now you talk to a lot of people, skeptics say that's nothing there, but a lot of the witnesses say that there was a black couple eating lunch right there, okay, in that general vicinity. Well, they have never been identified. They've never come forward. They've never been identified. And the vantage point that person had right there would absolutely have gotten one of the best, very close to the best view of the assassination. You would think for sure someone would want to try to get find out who these people are. You'd think a relative many years later, they might not even be alive anymore, but you think some kind of relative would have come forward at some point and saying, yeah, that was my mom or my grandpa or my whatever sister. That couple has never been identified, and I do truly believe that if you want to believe in a second assassin, this is probably right here a very interesting subject, because the person's never been identified, and the person would have had a good angle of at least taking a shot at Kennedy. Whether the person, I'm still not convinced that Oswald was not. I think Oswald was the only one shooting that day, to be honest with you. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't necessarily another assassin in the crowd somewhere. And I think this would be him here, right here.
All right. So after going over all these people, he's got 6 people here. You think, your personal opinion, because you've done the most research on this than anybody I know.
Mm-hmm.
Are you putting anybody in on this or no?
If you want to get my personal opinion, I think we're going to go right back to Oswald. Oswald had he had a reason to kill. He hated Kennedy. I think the backbone of it was probably Fidel Castro. Okay. You had the Cold War going on. You had the Bay of Pigs. Kennedy was supposedly trying to kill Castro, assassinate Castro. And Castro got to him first. I think he radicalized Oswald. There is proof that he was in Mexico City prior, a month or so prior to the assassination. And I think, and this is not just all me, there's other researchers that have done research on this, but I agree with them on this, that the Mexico probably offered asylum to Oswald. Oswald was a very violent man, and a lot of people really don't understand how violent and delusional the man was. and he could have gotten away with it. People real quick, I won't go too much into it, but because I know we got other stories to do, but people talk about how how can a lone gunman, kill the president of the United States? And something people seem to forget, Ronald Reagan in 1981 almost got assassinated by a lone crazed gunman that he didn't even have a reason to kill Reagan. He only wanted to do it for the attention of Jodie Foster. So Reagan came very damn close to dying. And a lot of people just seem to forget that a lone crazed gunman almost killed Reagan, I might add, with a much better trained Secret Service staff.
Oh yeah, we took a course at the track for work and what they do in an active shooter situation, and they use that footage of Reagan's assassination attempt and why, like the hive mentality of, when somebody is an active shooter, instead of running from it, everybody go and attack that person all at once because they can't really defend themselves, because at some point they're going to be overpowered by a large number of people, and
right.
Typically they're the threat is neutralized and they're disarmed and within seconds versus people running away and this person continuing to shoot and fire.
You're absolutely right. And the guy that was credited is, look, from Garfield Heights, that's what was it, Antonucci Boulevard. That's the guy that helped stop him.
Really?
That's what that's named after.
Never knew that.
Yep.
Wait, are we talking about Reagan?
Yes, pay attention, Buddha.
No, it wasn't Antonucci. His name was like John, son of a bitch.
No.
Are you talking about the guy that trained him?
No. The guy that helped stop him and jump on him and stop him from shooting more. The guy, because the gentleman that was shooting, I can't think of the guy's name right now either, but the guy that was shooting at Reagan, Antonucci jumped on him and held him down before the Secret Service got to him to help stop him from shooting.
I thought you were talking about it. I thought you were saying it was the agent that got Reagan out of there. That dude's name was like John something.
Oh yeah, no, the agent, the Secret Service agent, that wasn't referring to him. I'm just referring because John brought up the fact, and John's right. A lot of people jumped on the assassin for Reagan, the attempted assassin for Reagan, and that one guy that the first one to jump on him was that Antonucci, if I'm saying the name right, and that's who was credited, for helping stop the guy from shooting anymore because he jumped on him so quick before the Secret Service were able to get there.
Yeah.
But you're right, the agent's somebody else.
Alfred Antonucci of Garfield Heights.
The guy that I was thinking of was Jerry Parr.
Yes.
That's the guy that shoved Reagan into the limo.
Okay.
Correct. Very, very famous Secret Service agent. Yep.
He actually, I saw an article on him because he died. Well, I think he died a couple of years ago, but that article actually popped up.
How many years ago?
Say it one more time.
2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years. That was COVID.
He is the first case. Says he died in 2015.
Oh, is it 15? Okay, it was a little longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is definitely credited for it. And what the other thing he's credited for? Because he's the one that realized Reagan. Reagan didn't think he was hit when he first got in the car. He didn't even think he got hit. And he started coughing up like foamy blood. And that's when the guy knew we got to get him to the hospital right away. And Reagan came so damn close to dying from that the internal injuries.
I think that had he not been shot and he was coughing up foamy blood, he still should have went to the hospital.
Right.
All right.
But yeah, so that's my opinion on it. I think there might have been I think there could have been some other people involved, but I truly think Oswald was. And he shot a cop, by the way. He shot and killed a cop that same day. And that's fact, Lee Harvey Oswald. So he was no saint like people try to make him out to be.
Gotcha. All right, Buddha.
All right. So mine isn't any crazy, spectacular, supernatural or anything like I normally like to go into. But it is I kind of wanted to talk about it because of just the pure stupidity and how the fact that nothing has changed. So basically,
I'm scared.
No, it's not anything crazy. You might have even heard of this. So back in the 1890s in Texas, there was actually a town that was kind of made as a pop-up town, and it was called Crush. And it was named after this dude that worked for the railway, and his name was William Crush. And he had the genius idea that, hey, you know, the railroad's doing pretty well and we're making a bunch of money, but there's always a chance something can go wrong. So let's try to like put the railroad in the spotlight. And it's the Missouri, Kansas, Texas Railroad Company, and it was commonly known as Katy. So this guy goes, all right, publicity stunt. Here's what we're doing. We're going to get 2 trains and we're going to put them on the same track. And then we're just going to drive them full speed into one another. And then we're going to sell tickets. We're going to give tickets away to this. They're going to be free. But what we're going to do is we're going to say, you can come here, but you have to buy a train ticket to come here. But once you get here, admission is free. So it's the 1890s. There's not a whole lot of excitement going on, especially out in Texas where this was. It was just, I mean, it says college football hadn't even been around yet. That came around in 1894. So they literally had nothing. So they were like, hey, this is kind of like what people do nowadays. So back then they're like, everybody was on board, and it had gone through like a couple different hearings just to be like, is this safe? And everyone was like, yeah, we'll just back people up a little bit and it'll be fine. So he organizes this event, and he makes it like a big thing. Like they build a restaurant, they have lemonade stands, they had like their own little, it wasn't really like a prison, but essentially like if people got too rowdy, they built, you know, a mocked up police station holding area type thing, all just for this, you know, couple minute show that was supposed to be there. But it was supposed to be like a carnival type atmosphere. Just bring people out, you know, have games and stuff. Everybody can have fun and just hang out until they decide to crash these 2 trains. So, yeah. So as one can expect, that's essentially what happened. So basically what they did is, you know, they made it this whole big to-do, and they sold tickets. It was like $2 a ticket. So in the 1890s, I would assume that was a shit ton of money.
Yep.
And it says there was men, women, children, lawyers, doctors, farmers. I mean, they basically brought everyone out. It turned out to be so popular that the collision had to be delayed, and because trains were still arriving at 4 p.m., which was actually the scheduled time of the trains to be there. And like one of the big things was, okay, well, they're 2 decommissioned trains, or going to be decommissioned trains, and they were just basically being replaced with, you know, bigger, badder trains. So they said by the time they were actually ready for the event to happen, there was about 40,000 people came in total, which made Crush the 2nd largest city in Texas. And it was actually just a pop-up city. So at 5:10, Crush himself came riding in on a white horse and waved his hat, giving the signal for the trains to start. Like it was just, they put an engineer in each train, and once they got the trains going, the dudes just jumped out of the train, and they left 2 dummies in there acting as if, you know, they were still technically being driven or controlled, or how nice, John. And it says they basically just they jumped out, and then they ran 30 yards from the starting point, just to, you know, consider whatever they wanted to call safety back then. So the trains get up to a speed of about 50 miles per hour. They're carrying a row of boxcars behind them. They were empty though. And the collision was, it was about what you would expect 2 trains going at full speed, you know, 50 miles an hour towards one another to be. So the trains hit, and they just become, you know, they just demolish one another. And it's chill for like a second, and everyone's like, wow, this is great, until they realize that both of these trains had boilers on them, and when they hit and they crashed into one another, they demolished one another, there was like a couple second delay, and then the boilers exploded. and they basically shot pieces of the trains out into the crowd as shrapnel, and it ended up killing a couple people. And the dude that was hired to be the photographer was hit in the eye with a bolt, losing his eye. And yes, just like that. But the crazy part is, so I think they said there was a total of only 2 people dying, which out of 40,000 is pretty wild. There was a bunch of other injuries. But the crazy thing is, after this happened, everybody kind of paused for a minute, and then they all just ran up on the wreckage and started taking pictures as souvenirs, like they just survived this horrible publicity stunt. And that dude, Crush, was actually fired, obviously, because that happened. Then the next day was quietly rehired by the same company because of the amount of money and the amount of draw that his publicity stunt called. And he ended up working with the railroad for the rest of his life until he retired. So nothing ever even happened to him. I mean, now the railroad ended up paying out settlements and, stuff like that. And I think they gave the photographer like $10,000 at the time, which I would imagine made him pretty wealthy. But he ended up getting like a lifetime railroad pass, and any other thing that come up, they basically would handle it for him. But it's just kind of funny because it's like, oh, sorry, dude, here's a free train pass for life. Sorry about your eye. But yeah, I think that story is kind of fascinating because even in the 1890s, when there was nothing else going on, people were just like, let's just crash some shit and blow it up. And now here it is in like 2021, and people are like, let's just have a demolition derby and just crash into each other for fun. Like, let's all go stand outside this building and watch them demolish this building. Like, for basically since people could, they've just been fascinated with like destruction and, I mean, I wouldn't call this pyrotechnics, but you know what I mean? Any type of explosion or demolition. I don't know. Just kind of interesting.
Yeah, but why?
I never heard that story.
Why crash it? Was the trains going to be decommissioned, or like why?
Yeah,
crash
so
it?
like when I said the trains were going to be decommissioned, I actually meant the trains were going to be decommissioned.
I meant, dude.
No, yeah, they were being removed because they were bringing in like bigger models.
Had you mentioned that? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
like
he did mention
verbatim.
it.
All right. Well, like our audience, I'm not paying attention, I guess.
That's fine. But
no, that's crazy. But this reminds me of I don't know if you guys remember Balloon Fest 1986.
Yes.
Dan,
I don't remember it. I wasn't there, but I remember reading about it. I don't remember it, but I remember reading about it.
But just another stupid publicity stunt gone absolutely wrong.
Was that when they released all the balloons up into the atmosphere, or not the atmosphere,
Yep.
but they released them all? That was that thing, right?
Downtown Cleveland.
This was in downtown Cleveland. Balloon Fest 86 was a 1986 event in which the United Way of Cleveland set a world record by releasing 1.5 million balloons. The event was intended to be a harmless fundraising publicity stunt, but the balloons drifted back over the city and landed in the surrounding area, causing problems for traffic and a nearby airport. The event interfered with the United States Coast Guard search for 2 boaters who were later found drowned. In consequence, the organizers of the city faced lawsuits seeking millions of dollars in damages, and overruns put the event at a net loss. But yeah,
Do people not even take into consideration that those balloons eventually have to come back down?
well, that's what I'm saying. So, consequences. Typically, a helium-filled latex balloon that is released outdoors will stay aloft long enough to be fully deflated before it descends to the earth. However, Balloon Fest balloons collided with a cold front of cool air and rain dropped towards the ground, still inflated, clogging the land and waterways of Northeast Ohio.
There's probably some still out there.
Sure. Yep.
Let's see here. Balloons landing on a pasture in Medina County spooked Louise Nowowski's Arabian horses, which allegedly suffered permanent injuries as a result. Nowakowski sued the United Way for $100,000 in damages and settled for an undisclosed amount of money. Burke Lakefront had to shut down a runway for an hour and a half after balloons landed there. Oh, man. And so not only did we have this incident, but also in Cleveland, Ohio, I forget who it was, Dan. Was it the Cavs owner at the time who thought it would be a great idea to throw softballs off the top of Terminal Tower?
Wow.
To
I don't know
people-
that one.
Oh yeah, no. Also,
Yeah.
I do.
gives
I
a
thought
new
you were going
meaning.
to. I thought you were going to
Gives-
ask about the. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Buddha,
Go.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go.
Terminal Tower softball drop. Forgotten History doc. It's forgottenhistory.me. Let's see here. It's loading up right now.
What year did that happen, John?
Let's see. Hold on.
It brings a
sorry.
whole new meaning to the Terminal Tower. Or is that how it got its name?
Terminal velocity.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ted Stepien is someone who is described as many as a strange, eccentric, and aloof at the times. He was, I thought, Ted Stepien.
It says the Cleveland Indians did a stunt where baseballs were thrown off the top of the Terminal Tower.
Yeah.
And the players in the street below tried to catch them.
Yes. it just hit a bunch of people
From a 600-foot building.
Oh man!
Oh.
And so just pelting people in the head with these.
That just
softballs.
shows you don't have to be intelligent to make a lot of money.
I'm surprised it didn't kill people. It didn't kill anybody.
No. So let's see.
It's a tower's like over 600 foot high.
In 1980, organizers asked the Indians to repeat the stunt for the 50th anniversary, but they declined. So they reached out to Ted Stepien and invited him and the Cleveland competitors to participate in the event, seeing it was a good way to gain some free publicity for the team. He owned the Cavs. And so on June 24th, 1980, Stepien, perched on top of the 52nd floor, looked below as 6 of his Cleveland competitors stared skyward, waiting for the ball to be thrown. Behind them stood an eager crowd of 5,000 people. It is somewhat eerie foretelling of events to be come. Stepien reportedly said, "This is bad. I'm really going to hurt somebody." Just before his first throw, someone on the observation deck told him to make sure he threw the ball far so that it would clear the base of the building. With that in mind, Stepien launched it roughly 50 feet away before the ball began hurtling towards the earth. A few seconds later, it smashed into a car below, leaving a massive dent. It says the second ball nearly beamed a 66-year-old factory worker, just barely missing his skull and nailing him in the shoulder. It was badly bruised, but the man refused medical attention. The third ball rocketed towards the ground and shattered 24-year-old Gail Falinsky's right wrist. By this time, many people were starting to flee, and those that stayed were pushed away from the tower's police in order to keep out of the way of the aimless projectiles. So,
Can you imagine being so stupid that when the time comes and you realize your idea is stupid, you do it anyway?
well, and the other part about this too is that they didn't have any communication up there, so they just kept throwing them.
Which
Yeah, I think-
even then, they had the technology for that. I
At
mean,
least you could have had a radio or something.
Right.
My God. Ugh.
It's just some guy
I thought-
running up the stairs telling him to stop.
I thought you were going to talk about another intelligent thing Cleveland did, which was
Set the
before our
river on
time.
fire.
Well, yeah, that's another story there. No, it was Nickel Beer Night. You've heard of that one?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I remember that.
No, it was
Okay, so-
it was dime beer night. I think 10-cent beer.
No, it was nickel.
No.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. 10-cent beer night. I apologize. Yes.
Yeah, it was
10-cent
dime.
beer night. There was another somewhere else they had nickel, but yes, 10-cent beer night. The promotion attracted over 40,000 people. Sold, 10-cent beer. So I think you know what happened with that, right? A riot started.
Oh, yeah.
People naked running on the field.
So, yeah, there's a there's a on Wikipedia. There's a picture of a guy running around.
Butt naked, right?
Yeah, dude. Oh my goodness.
But it goes to say, like, you're just Buddha was saying, it's so stupid. You got to know, especially in the mid 70s, when the Indians completely sucked. They were the worst team around, and you have oh well, we're going to try to get some people in here and just give them 10-cent beer. I mean, these people were drunk before the second inning.
So yeah, it says 6 days after a brawl in Texas, Cleveland's 10-cent beer night promotion drew 25,134 fans to Cleveland
it's 20.
Stadium for the Tuesday night game, twice the number expected. The Rangers quickly took a 5-1 lead. Meanwhile, throughout the game, the inebriated crowd grew more and more unruly. In the game, Cleveland's LeRon Lee hit a line drive into the stomach of Rangers pitchers Ferguson Jenkins, after which Jenkins dropped to the ground. Fans in the upper deck cheered, then chanted, hit him again, harder, harder." A woman ran out to the Indians' on-deck circle and flashed her breasts, and a naked man sprinted to second base as Grieve hit the second home run of the game. One inning later, a father and son pair ran onto the outfield and mooned the fans in the bleachers. Oh, my God. Well, they didn't. There's a reason why I say from the mistake on the lake. Oh boy. All right. So, Buddha, you good on that one? That was pretty interesting. I never heard anything like that before. That was a pretty good one. All right. So, again, as I've been trying to rebuild all the studio and stuff, I've been kind of digging out some of the old archival stuff. And so mine, and I'll probably make this one a little short and sweet, but I'm going back to, we never aired this episode, but it was, we did record something for it. It was the MH370, the mystery surrounding that. And so on March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 takes off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing. Not long after, the transponder is shut off and the plane abruptly vanishes, never to be seen again. Was this a case of extreme mechanical failure, or perhaps there's a little bit more to the story? So, 38 minutes into the flight, there's no problem. All of a sudden, the transponder turns off, and the plane goes missing. After a certain amount of time, countries start to look for the plane again. 26 countries searched for it. The initial search was considered a botched search because they were looking in the entirely wrong place. The first piece to show up on shore was about a year later, and it was one of the flaparounds on the wing. So obviously the plane crashed, so the plane didn't land anywhere. The official story was that the crew cabin became oxygen deprived, and the crew flew on autopilot until the plane ran out of gas and crashed into the sea. Another potential guess is that the plane was shot down. And then the third thing is the suicide theory, which was that the pilot had basically purposely depressurized the plane, and he was suicidal, and so he flew over his home city, tipped the wing of the plane, and basically let the plane coast until it crashed. And so there's also one other theory, and that's with a group of Russian hijackers that basically broke into a part of like a hidden compartment, not a hidden compartment, but a compartment within the plane that manipulated the data recorder and were able to depressurize the plane, basically making everybody pass out on board except for them because they had scuba gear, and they were able to kidnap some of the VIPs on the plane and take them hostage, and then faking a landing or faking a crash and landing the plane elsewhere. So again, the black boxes have never been recovered, and so who knows where they're at. And realistically, without those, we won't be able to get the official data, records and the voice records from the cockpit. So interesting story. I still find this one to be a mystery. You guys have any take on it?
What was that happened like early 2010s ish, didn't it?
2014, March 8th. So we're coming up on the 6th year of not being able to find this.
That just seems so weird that, I mean, like with just tracking in general that they have now, especially when it comes to like, satellite phones and just GPS in general, where they can pinpoint pretty damn close to where you are, like anywhere, that stuff like this still just disappears.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I just can't believe that there's a feature to turn off on an airplane. You can turn off the transponder for being
Right.
able to-
Like what is ever the instance where you're like, I need to turn this off, unless you're doing something shady.
Exactly. Like, yeah, that's what there should be no reason to shut that thing off. Yet there, the pilot has the ability. Even around 9/11, they were the transponders were turned off. I believe, or they were attempted to be turned off, and the plane still hit the building. But yeah, you're right. Why would you ever need to turn that off?
Not to sway
was
the
probably-
conversation. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, I mean, the guy it probably was. I mean, look at the guy that I think was like a year later, that one dude that the pilot took a plane into the side of a mountain because he
Yes.
was depressed and suicide. Remember that?
Yeah.
Germany, I think.
Yeah, no, and you make a good point. Like, I'm always nervous to get on a plane because, there's always like one guy at every company that's like, oh, this guy's like, a total basket case. Like, is that the pilot that's going to be flying my plane? Is that the guy that has a ton of problems and, owes his bookie a ton of money? His wife's divorcing him and just doesn't really have much use left for the world? Because, God, that would suck.
How much you want to bet I don't crash this plane?
Oh, man. But
My
yeah,
question is, though, isn't there co-pilots? I mean, you'd think they would take control, to stop the guy from doing something like that.
that's a good point. Again, yeah.
Plus, they're suicidal too.
Yeah, what about a suicide pact,
Yeah, that's
But-
scary to think about, but yeah.
Or even, dude, I mean, how easy would it be to like, hey, man, just take a nap. I got this. I mean,
Yeah.
I've clearly never been on a plane that's gone down, but I would imagine it's not going to be very long,
No.
And then, I mean, especially, so if you drop, I mean, does it say how high this plane would have been flying at?
I mean, cruising altitude is typically 35,000 feet.
Okay, so if you're at 35,000 feet, going how fast? A couple 100 miles an hour, right?
Planes usually travel anywhere between 450 to 600 miles an hour.
Okay, so just even on the low side, 450 miles an hour. How long is it going to take you to go 35,000 feet?
You mean free fall?
No, I mean if you aim that thing and you're going down. Like if
Well,
it was
not long
something
at all.
intentional. That's what
Oh,
I'm saying. Like,
I mean, probably within a minute.
so to go from within a minute, if you were to, and at that point you're propelling yourself down, what are the things that could happen if you don't have your oxygen mask on? Like that quick, would it make a difference?
Well, and so one of the things that a lot of theorists think about 9/11 is that the guessed speed of the planes that hit the towers were exceeded 400 miles an hour. But the problem that presents itself is that planes flying at that low of an altitude at that speed causes what they call flutter. And what flutter is where the wings vibrate to the point of disintegration and they break apart. And so at that low of altitude and that high of speed, the plane cannot take that kind of pressure on its, on itself. So, who knows to say that the plane, if it was going down fast, it wouldn't have exploded due to like I said, that vibration and flutter. But again, I'm not an aviation expert or an aeronautics expert, but from everything that I'm seeing here is that the plane coasted, or they think the plane coasted to a water, like not a soft water landing, but more of like a crash on water, but more of a glide than a free fall.
Didn't they finally find some pieces of that plane?
One piece washed ashore, and it was part of the flaperon, part of a wing.
Okay.
So, you've never flown, right?
To me, no.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yes. So
Nope.
one of the part of the wing, there's a mechanical part of the wing that basically controls how it moves up and down, and basically helps create lift, and that part washed ashore.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, I'm looking here. It looks like German Wings Flight 9220 or 9525 is the one you're talking about, Dan, where the plane was crashed into a wing, or crashed into a mountain by the pilot. It was on March 24, 2015. The aircraft, an Airbus A320-211, crashed northwest of Nice in the French Alps. All 144 passengers and 6 crew members were killed. It was caused deliberately by the co-pilot, who had previously been treated for suicidal tendencies and declared unfit for work by his doctor. Lubitz kept this information from his employer and instead reported for duty. Shortly after reaching cruising altitude while the captain was out of the cockpit, he locked the cockpit door because after 9/11, they put door locks on the doors to where you couldn't unlock it except from inside the cockpit, and initiated a controlled descent that continued the aircraft into the mountainside. So, yeah, so it must have been while the captain was using the restroom or something. So
yeah, see, I forgot, I didn't hear that part of it. I was going to ask you why didn't the captain stop it, or this pilot rather.
So
Here's an article that says where is it? I just saw the date. October 22nd, 2020. Investigators have reportedly identified a possible crash site for the doomed MH370 aircraft that mysteriously went missing in 2014. They believe they found a probable site of the Malaysian Airlines passenger plane that warrants a new search of the ocean floor in the region. And it just goes on to say that they think they've pinpointed it to within 100 nautical miles of the specified coordinates that they give. They're calling for the search to resume, as in 2018 the last ocean searches were called off.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So are they going to go out there and try to find it, or what?
They're calling for the search to resume. It doesn't say that they've actually done anything. That was from October.
How do you think these deaths will be reported as?
COVID.
Oh, okay, good. Just checking.
Dude, you know what's crazy though? If you really think about, I mean, how many planes and ships and stuff like that are just sitting on the floor of any body of water, especially the ocean, that like no one will ever know about. No one knows that they're missing because it's just, forgotten over time. And then like when you come across stuff like that on accident, and then like, are you going to find, skeletons still seat belted in? Or would it be like completely, utterly destroyed, just wreckage?
Just wreckage. Look at the Titanic. I mean, look how long they finally found the Titanic. There was no bodies around.
Not even skeletons?
Nope. I don't believe so. I mean, of course that was found, 80 years later, 70 years. But I mean, I think maybe after a couple years, 4 or 5 years, you could still find skeletal remains. Absolutely. But I mean, like if it's been down there 25 years, I doubt it. 30 years or so.
Is somebody Googling?
But that's true.
Right now, did they find skeletons in the Titanic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, but I'm curious.
Now I'm curious. But
to add to that point, though, you make a good point, because I know they found cars that were not in the ocean, but they were, they went into a lake, and the car was sitting down there for. I think I remember reading a story. A car was down there for since the early 70s, and they did find actually the remains of somebody, still in the car. It wasn't in an ocean, but
Dude, so crazy story. Not related to the Titanic, but this is something that I just saw like within the last week. There was some dude he works for, I don't remember what state or what county. It's like what city. He works for the school system, and he does like all the bus routing. And he generally will, when he goes on to map the routes, he'll use Google Earth just to lay it out, kind of see what's around, make sure
I know exactly
safe.
what you're talking about.
Dude, he goes on Google Earth and he goes, man, that kind of looks like a car. That's
Yes.
like You saw that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and they
Well,
found the
tell me, 'cause
skeleton.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So he sees this car on Google Earth, and he like calls his friend, and he goes, "Hey, there's a lake or pond or whatever you want to call it behind your house, like not too far. It looks like there's a car in it. Can you go check?" So she goes and checks, and they find a body in this car, and it was a dude that went missing from in like the 90s. It was like 22 years
Wow.
later or something,
Yeah.
and he was seat belted in the car, sitting in this lake for 20 years, and nobody ever saw him.
Yeah, yeah, I did see that. So yeah, this the guy called his ex-girlfriend, right? And then they were still friendly, and so she's like, why don't you go look outside? And then they go call the cops, and the cops are like, how did you find this? And he's like, I found it on Google Earth.
It's crazy. You know what sucks too is like, getting back to the air with the plane you were talking about, John. But the worst thing that's got to be is not knowing what happens to like the people in the plane, not knowing, have no closure for your loved ones, not knowing what they went through, don't even have a body. That's got to be the worst part of that whole thing.
Oh yeah, no, and the families that will never ever know or never see their their loved ones again.
Right, but even someone gets in a car accident, you have the body, and you're like, all right, I know what happened. But in this case, like that plane, I mean, who the hell knows what happened to those people, what they went through? No one will, maybe no one's going to ever know on that one, probably.
Right. It's funny we bring up that Booty brought up that car story. Like, there's been other crimes solved by Google Earth other than just this one. I know this wasn't really a crime; it was a accidental death. But yeah, like people have been able to.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen some stuff where they've caught people like in the middle of committing a crime in like a still on Google Earth.
In Street View. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so yeah, MH370. My guess is that, I mean, to be the pilot and commit suicide and take all those innocent people with you, that seems pretty horrible. My guess is that, and I'm gonna keep on this stance, is that I find it hard to believe, but then again, who knows? But I think that the plane was depressurized on accident and it just kind of coasted aimlessly until it crashed. I think the official record is that I believe that they're pinning it that this guy did kill himself and then everyone on board. But I don't know. It's just, I find it hard to believe someone would do that. But stranger things have happened. I guess.
I definitely don't.
So what are you thinking? You thinking that it was intentional?
I think so. I mean, why, if someone's willing to kill themselves, people go on shooting sprees. They go kill, 50 people in a mall. They probably know they're going to end up dying themselves. They don't give a shit. I want to die. I don't care. I'll take these people. I'm unhappy. I'm pissed off. And I'm looking at all these happy people in this plane behind me here, or in my plane that I'm flying. Screw it. I'm going to take everybody with me. I could see that happening very, very easily.
Yeah, I think to be in that state of being ready to commit suicide, you're already going to be unstable for one reason or another to take it a next stretch further. I mean, how many people that or have met are literally like, just because I'm miserable, I want everyone around me to be miserable. And not saying that they say that, but their actions show that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time to bring this to a close for this evening. You guys got anything before we meet again?
I'm good.
I think we're pretty good.
All right. Well, for Dan Rady, Steve Gibson, and all of those of Type 3's past. Let's see, I'm trying to learn these faders here. See, I kicked it up too high. See, it's low in my earphones because I'm monitoring it, but
Because you're deaf.
well, yes, but yeah. So let's try this again. All right. So for Dan Rady, Steve Gibson, and everyone else that's ever participated in the Type 3 TV, I'm John Brzezinski. For the Mistake on the Lake, this is Type 3 TV. Over and out.